Alright, you saw the last video, you saw I had issues with this girdle made by DSS Racing. We ended up throwing on the mill and modified it in these locations. These notch outs for the socket, we ended up running a 3/4 end mill and just bringing it in a couple thou, and then we actually walked it a little bit left and right just to widen it a bit more, just in case. We only touched the ones that had issues, and I should have listened to my friend who said we should touch all of them, because if you see, this one is a little bit bent along with this one. After rebolting it up, other ones didn't want to fit the socket properly. Same thing, well, that's just a mark from earlier. But anyways, so if you end up running the same issues, go ahead and widen every single notch. And you don't need a mill to do this. If you have a flap disc on a die grinder or something, you can use that as well. But that ended up solving that issue. The original issue, if you watch the older videos with this pickup tube, if you're running the 302 or 351 with a rear sump Canton pan, and you have this long pickup tube that runs this outer edge of the girdle, you won't be able to see it too well, but you can see it's beveled here all the way down. If anyone from DSS Racing is watching, I'm doing your R&D for you. So y'all need to mill this. Just put a bevel on this edge. I ended up milling out some of it in a drill press with a burr tool first, and then I went back with a flat disc and took off some more because it still wasn't enough to clear it. But that fixed it where the pickup tube would actually fit. The last issue is where this pickup tube interfered with this nut on the end. Now, this was a whole nother issue. This could be solved in a couple of ways. One is I can't get a socket to it because of this, so you have to use a wrench. Can't get a wrench to it because, well, it's only notched for this little gap where the nut sits. So this interferes or this interferes. We opted to run this on down and just kind of walk it out here. And then I put it on the belt sander and try to smooth it out because I don't have a CNC, and it's real fun trying to turn an XY axis at the exact same rate to bring it out smooth. But it worked out. I was able to get a wrench on it. In the future, I would probably take this bevel here on out instead of walking it out the edge. Just run it on down all the way, and don't put this little point here for starters. Secondly, I don't know if it's possible because there is a clearance on the underside for the rod or the counterweight, but notching this further down to about where the M is, same height as this, would fix that issue. Or, like I said, do like we did and clearance out this. Because even, I guess if you didn't have the scraper, you'd be able to put a wrench on this decently. You might need a tall nut, or do like I did and just stack some washers to lift it so you can actually get a wrench on the top, because after a while you'll start running into this lip that'll want to catch where you can't get the wrench down deep enough on this nut, and you won't be able to torque it down. But I got it to finish attaching, and of course lastly, this issue down here, they mentioned in the instructions you have to clearance your oil pump a little bit with a flap disc or something so this nut can get tightened down, and then it'll have clearance there, and it is snug. It is super tight. There's not a whole lot of gap there. But on top of that, the last thing is, I don't know if the thickness of this tab changed. I probably should have chucked the girdle up in the mill and taken down the difference in the thickness. Instead, I opted to try to flap disc or grind this tab itself down to 100 thou, which is what this notch under here is cut for. What I would recommend is DSS actually taking this little notch and cutting another 100 thou into it, and then include different length or different size different size spacers or a couple of shims or washers to compensate, and just have you take a caliper and measure what size you need to make it where it sits level. But that's it. The bottom end is essentially assembled on this motor. We'll start working on the top end, drop the lifters in, and get the heads on it next. Thanks for watching.